acknowledge that we are on the land of the Squamish. Okay, and with that, let's introduce ourselves. Okay, I'm Councilmember Ashley Matthews. It is my honor to be here with you today again. This is my second time returning as a moderator for this lovely event. Councilmember Fantroy Johnson was supposed to be with you today and she couldn't make it, so you get Timu Brenda today, but I'm glad to be here with you all. This was probably our second, so I actually did a town hall this morning for the South Ward down on the south end, and so I hope that we'll hear many of the issues that came up there today. I see some of the same folks here. We did discuss roundabouts. I know those will come up and several other things, so it's really great to see you all today. I think it was a challenging session, but these were the folks to be there for us, representing us there. And they got lots done for us. And so my question to them and what I would love to hear from them are, I'd love to hear your highs and lows for session and just hear you speak through that. And it's great to be here with you all.
And before you answer those questions, my name is Laura Lant. I'm also a council member for the North Ward for Bainbridge Island. These folks represent the Kitsap 23rd District, which spans from Bainbridge Island to, East Bremerton, to Hansville, to Paulsbo, to Kingston, to, who am I forgetting? There's a swath. It's a huge swath. It's not just us. And I don't know if there's other folks in this room besides Bainbridge Islanders who are living in those other locations, but welcome. Thank you for making the trek out to Bainbridge Island. This has been a short season for the legislature, and you still got lots done. There's still things to be done, and we would love to hear the highs and the lows, and so appreciate you all taking this, you all, on a gorgeous day, showing up here today. Thank you so much. You all for showing up to each and every one of these town halls to tell us what you're doing. So thank you. So I will hand this, I'm just going to send it this way, and you guys can respond, and thank you so much.
All right, we're going to start with me. I know I don't actually need the mic, but we're recording the event, so this helps people hear it online. Here's the first thing we're going to do. We had a sudden and very sad loss in our community this week. Many of you know former Senator Phil Rockefeller, longtime Bainbridge Island resident, longtime Bainbridge Island family. He died this past week. And he was an extraordinary mentor, I think, to everyone up here, an extraordinary public servant. I mean, I would call and talk to him about one of his flagship programs for college access years after he left the legislature. So we're going to begin today with a brief moment of silence for Senator Rockefeller. Thank you. Okay. My name is Drew Hansen. I'm your state senator. I work for everyone in this room. How many people have been to one of these town halls before? Okay, great. So you generally know that what I focus on in the legislature is all around helping people find ways to get decent jobs and support a family. So there's a new healthcare campus at Olympic College in Paulsbo, as some of you may know. There are degrees in phlebotomy. Those are the people who take your blood, respiratory tech, ultrasound tech, and more. They're short-term, 16, 24 weeks. My personal role in all of this is making sure people can afford to go get that. So I have been super involved in keeping a handle on tuition costs and on financial aid for working class families with my bill, the Washington College Grant, which builds on Senator Rockefeller's amazing program, the College Bound Scholarship. And this is one area where we're actually making some progress. So we have had, in the last 10 years since I started working on this, really great success in making college affordable for people. 10 years ago, about 30% of the students at UW or WSU or Western would graduate debt-free. Right now, today, that's up to about 60 or 70% of the students at these schools. Zero debt. That is an outlier in the nation. We are very proud about that. That is one thing we've worked very hard on to keep the cost of college down. So in addition to that, the other two things I've been working on in the legislature this year have been trying to get a handle on state spending and get it under control, and on trying to protect us against what the Trump administration is throwing at us. So the first one, we spent too much money during the pandemic and in the years after the pandemic. We got our spending got out of control. We put a lot of escalators in the budget that just took off like rockets. We put programs in place that cost much more than we thought they would. We need to get that back under control. That is one of the big things I was doing in the last couple of years, is trying to identify ways that we can reduce state spending without really hurting people. We've done some of what I recommended. There were some programs we probably should not have done in the first place that I didn't support, that we finally got out of the budget last year. We didn't do all of it. To give you one example, we're currently spending around $100 million on remote online Zoom school for K-12 students, much, maybe even most of which is going to for-profit companies. That, I think, is just berserk and totally unacceptable. Like, I don't understand why we're paying a $2 billion for-profit company to provide Zoom school for students so they can do travel baseball. Like, I don't think that's a core state function, okay? I would like to see us not doing that. I was partially successful in that, but not all the way. I will keep working on that next year. Third and last is protecting us against the Trump administration. We have a politically mixed district. Some of you may like Donald Trump. Some of you may not like Donald Trump. But whether you like or dislike the Trump administration, it's costing us money in the state. I mean, if you, like, we were just doing a town hall in Paulsbo, so you're driving by Suquamish, which is where I get my gas, it's $5 a gallon. We're going to see that hit the ferry budget in a very significant way this fall. The tariffs have cost us a bunch of money in construction. We feel that all around the capital budget. And then the one that I focus the most on is making sure we can protect ourselves against ICE. We have seen ICE activity nationwide. We have seen ICE outside of schools in Spokane. We have seen ICE outside of daycares in Issaquah. I had a bill this year, the Secure Accountable Federal Enforcement Act, the SAFE Act, that would prevent ICE from coming inside of schools, daycares, hospitals, colleges, universities, and more without a warrant. We got it right to the 1 yard line, and we weren't able to get it through the House despite heroic efforts by my colleagues, especially Representative Simmons, to jam it free at the last minute. We're going to bring that back next year. In the meantime, what we're trying to do is get the word out that people can voluntarily refuse to let ICE enter non-public areas of their clinics or whatever without a warrant. I was just talking to one of our local dentists about that today. So that's what I've been working on. Those are both some highs and some lows. Thank you for being here today. I look forward to your questions.
Well, my name is Representative Tara Simmons, and I have been honored to serve you in Olympia for 5 years now. Many people know I live in actually East Bremerton, so completely opposite from you on the how our district spans. So I'm on the other end of the district, but I serve all of us there. I grew up in poverty. I am so grateful that I am the product of Central Kitsap School District, and I was able to go to alternative schools. I was a mom at 14 years old, and so because of my lived experience and because of the opportunity that I've been given, I tend to focus a lot on marginalized communities, people who have not had a chance at higher education or things like that. I was the first person in my family to graduate from high school, let alone go on to college. So I really love everything that Senator Hansen does to make college affordable for everyone, because I know that education is a way out of poverty. But part of my life is I was a registered nurse for 11 years, and so I work a lot on healthcare. I've passed about 21 bills in my 3 terms, and I would say 2/3 of those are in the healthcare arena. I also am a person who struggled with substance use disorder and was incarcerated, so I care a lot about both mental health and prevention and substance use disorder, and helping people find recovery, but also helping people get into rehabilitation and become productive members of society and make sure that they re-enter the community from incarceration in a safe way, and so we don't have as many crime victims. I also am a civil rights lawyer now, and so a lot of the things that Senator Hansen also cares about, I do too. So keeping ICE out of our communities and protecting our neighbors from the federal overreach is something that I was working a lot on this session as well. I currently serve on the Healthcare Committee and the Technology Committee, and that one also has Community Development and Veterans. We do have 3 military bases, and I'm the mom of a U.S. Marine and also have been married to a Navy man, and so really care a lot about our military families. We have, 3 bases that we represent families. So I spend a lot of time on veterans issues and military families. And then I also am on community safety. And then on the Rules Committee, and I am now a Deputy Pro Tem Speaker. And so in that role, I'm like doing a lot of different things and presided over the 25-hour debate on the millionaire tax. And I actually took that role on this biennium because I wanted to learn to listen to my Republican colleagues as well. And looking at them for 25 hours straight, you have to listen. And it's been great because I've been able to make a lot of relationships across the aisle and be able to get things done more effectively in that way. This year, one of my big bills that I guess was a low that we didn't get through is Bryn Blanchard here on the island, and her family, really taught me a lot about a rare medical condition, and I was fighting really hard for the treatment for that. And we did get through the House with bipartisan support, and that was a beautiful project, and then it died in the Senate. So that was definitely a low. I would say a low also was just the overall budget because of the increase in spending since I got there, 5 years ago. It's hard to keep up. And so passing new taxes is never fun, and finding revenue. And so I totally support Senator Hansen when he says we need to reduce spending. And I have also sent him lots of projects that I want scrutiny of because I believe that we do fund things that are wasteful and that we need to really look at that before we pass new revenue on working families in particular. Some of the highs, I guess, was, we did get some great bills through. I love Representative Nance's bill that's going to require behavioral health training for all apprentices in our state. That's a beautiful one. And I had a couple that support nurses. As a former nurse, I support nurses a lot. So I got a couple of bills through there. But overall, I guess we will talk about the millionaire tax. I think I'm very happy with some of the positives of that bill, and I am looking forward to sharing that with you in a little bit.
Good afternoon. My name is Greg Nance, and it is so good to be back home right here. I was really blessed to grow up here on Bainbridge Island. I was an Ordway otter, a Sakai, a Sakai salmon, a Woodward Wolverine, a Bainbridge Spartan, and I've played on every ball field in this community. I've run on most of the trails in this community, and I want to be honest, I didn't realize how lucky I was to grow up here until I went off and got as far away as I could. 4 years in Chicago, a year in England, 7 years in China, and only made my way back shortly before COVID. And it was really that trip around the world that showed me how fortunate I am to call Bainbridge and Kitsap home. We have a community worth fighting for. I didn't realize how fortunate I was to have great schools, teachers, and coaches who cared immensely, community members that care immensely. How fortunate we were to have great health care back then, where I had a great pediatrician. My granddad who got sick could go to Island Health and Rehab right here, or Harrison Hospital right here. Mom and dad with great work opportunities, including a ferry boat that ran on time every time. A lot of the things that made my childhood so blessed, so charmed, we are struggling with. Our healthcare system is going the wrong direction. We are closing clinics. We're closing our hospital. The Navy's pulling up stakes and leaving. That is a really, really big challenge for our community. Our ferry system had 3,500 canceled sailings the year I joined the legislature. Folks aren't getting to work when they need to, aren't getting to school or the doctor when they need to. They're missing flights. There are real costs for our community. We are growing and we are changing as a community. It's up to us as community members to channel the future of that growth and development. I'm a proud graduate of the 2007 class at BHS. That was the high watermark for our enrollments at Bainbridge Island School District. As many of us know, our enrollments in our schools is directly tied to the state funding that we get from Olympia. With enrollments declining the way they are, we are in big, big challenges within our school district to keep our doors open, to keep teachers supported, to keep our kiddos well supported. Those are all big challenges. I do know that working with my colleagues here, both on the state level and then Councilmember Lant, Councilmember Matthews, we care deeply about our community. And with community members who are here on a sunny Saturday afternoon, instead of over at the farmer's market, that looked really fun. That's because we care, and we immensely appreciate that, because as we dig into the challenges we're facing, every one of these challenges is going to require us working together, standing together, and delivering together. So it is an honor to be back home working for our neighbors here. Let's get to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, come for the, okay, question. So, so we have questions here seem to be segmented into groups. So I think either of you can answer these, or you can pick the topics that you feel like most. So we have, I'll tell you the topics. So we have data centers, transportation, millionaires tax, and education, and then some miscellaneous. So we will start with an education. I'm assuming this is going to go to Senator Hansen, but we'll see. What's the plan for promoting and building more vocational training in the state so that we rebuild and replenish the trades?
Yeah, thank you. That sounds like the kind of question that would be a plant from my mom. Because this is something I've been working on since I showed up. One of the worst things we did in this country is we stopped doing shop class. That was one of the dumbest things we did. Okay. We still have some of that, including at BHS. Okay. But we have got to hear the problem we fell into is this idea that there's only one way to be smart. And that's if you can like read a book and listen to a lecture and process information and take a test. But what if you're not good at learning like that? What if what you're really good at is pulling apart a 4-cylinder engine and putting it back together again? You're smart too. And there are a lot of good jobs that you can get in this economy. You can make good money in HVAC. You can make good money as an electrician. Union apprentice electricians start out and they get paid while they are learning to be an electrician, and then they journey out and make really good money. So what we have tried to do about that are a few things. One, we have tried to increase what now goes by the name of CTE, or Career and Technical Education funding. That's the funding that goes to shop class, as well as classes for pre-healthcare, pre-maritime, and other very, very workforce salient things. Two, we have tried to expand some of these short-term credentials in the colleges and universities. So what we're doing up in Paulsbo right now, those ultrasound respiratory tech phlebotomists that I mentioned were short-term, like that's exactly the kind of hands-on learning that we need that gets people into a job very, very quickly, making really good money. The one good thing, I'm going to be super partisan and say the one good thing that has happened in the Trump administration is in the big, beautiful bill is something called Workforce Pell, which is exactly what it sounds like. Pell is a grant that supports college. Workforce Pell supports these short-term credentials. That's open up to federal aid right now in HR 1. That is super exciting. I've been working with our community colleges and our partners in the trades to make sure we're going to qualify as many programs as we can. Third, and related to the first two, is we're expanding union apprenticeships. Most of the ways that people get trained in blue collar, well, I guess we don't call them, like in workforce trades right now, come through union apprenticeships. And they're incredibly successful because you get paid while you are learning how to be an electrician, a plumber, or whatever. We have been expanding those opportunities. It's a little rough, right? And it's a lot rough right now for unions in construction. I think we have 9,000 construction union workers out of work. Okay. It is a very, very difficult situation. So we are not exactly wildly expanding these right now because the unions are super responsible. They're not going to take you into a trade if they don't know that they can place you. But that is the third path. And man, that path works really well, especially for the people that Representative Simmons and I care a lot about, and Representative Nance as well, which is people getting out of prison. One of the things I did last summer was go visit the apprenticeship program at South Seattle Community College at the Georgetown campus. And sure enough, there's a guy who did construction trades apprenticeship program in prison, got out, went immediately to the masonry program in Georgetown. Within a short period of time, he's going to be back earning money, and there's not a chance he's getting behind bars because he has the kind of skills that are going to keep him in a living wage job forever. So thank you for that question. It's something I care a lot about, and hopefully we're going to keep making progress on it.
I just want to add also and give shout out to Representative Nance, who really worked hard to make sure that the West Sound tech program. It got the funding needed to expand. And that's a program where kids can go even in high school, and instead of going to traditional classroom, they can go and get a skill, a hands-on skill. And my niece and my nephew have both been in that program. And so I think that's a really good opportunity while kids are still in high school to have options to get trained into becoming a CNA, a certified nurse's assistant, or getting a cosmetologist, or getting ready to go into an apprenticeship program in the trades. And those are all good pathways for people from different backgrounds, from all backgrounds, to have a chance. And I really love what Senator Hansen said also about the people coming out of prison. That also reduces crime. If we want to not have victims, we want to have safe communities. When people have opportunity and a way to provide for themselves, there's less chance of us having more crime victims. So I appreciate that.
That shop and home economics. Oh, I'm old enough that shop and economics were required when I went to high school on the Philadelphia Main Line. And I taught at Clahalia Secondary School for a number of years. And I became the liaison to West Sound Technical Skills Center. I had multiple degrees in government English and special ed, and my relationship with West Sound was life-changing for me and for the I'm getting goosebumps. It was just an amazing learning experience, and for my special ed students, it was life-changing for them. They found success there. They were honored. The teachers were amazing. And some of these students who never thought they'd be going on to the sub-base and hired as apprentices, I just can't thank you for enough for the emphasis.
Thank you so much.
I want to point out that so often in government, we focus on things that are broken. And for a long time, vocational education has been broken because it's been underfunded. This was truly a team win. In the 2025 budget last year, this was actually a $0 investment. The state wanted to put $0 into West Sound Tech, even though West Sound Tech had a big garbage bag over its west-facing wall. It was so badly underfunded, we couldn't even get students inside. Our community stepped up hundreds of letters of support, and then we were able to secure a $42 million investment that will now be a state-of-the-art facility long into the future. So appreciate all your contributions here and appreciate community members who care, that use our voice. That's actually how we get stuff done down in the Capitol. So thank you.
Love it. Thank you. Okay, moving on, 2 o'clock. We only have half an hour, so we're going to make this count. So this is going to be about data centers, or data centers, whichever way you prefer. Data centers. We've had a couple questions about this. NDAs regarding data centers. Can you pass regs or laws making this illegal? And a number of initiatives regarding data centers failed this session. People are concerned of the impact of data centers on climate and electric rates. What can citizens do to help and stop this?
So I'll start with this one. Before my colleagues got in the legislature, we started giving a special tax exemption for data centers to be built in Washington State. We expanded that tax exemption several times over the years. I voted against every single one of those special data center tax breaks. Thank you, Eric. And in the last extension that we did, I was the only House Democrat to vote against the data center tax break. I just think this is bonkers public policy. Like, if you build a new hospital in Kitsap County, which we could desperately use, you will pay sales tax on your construction. When you buy MRI machines, you will pay sales tax on the MRI machines. If you have to replace them, you will pay sales tax on that. I don't understand why, if you're going to build a data center, you shouldn't have to pay the sales tax on construction and on your equipment that a hospital does. That makes no sense at all to me. Zero. I think that is bizarre and unacceptable public policy. Now, credit former Senator Christine Rolfes, now Commissioner Christine Rolfes, and then the governor for leading the way on paring back the data center tax break, which we finally did this past year. We did not go far enough. There was a Hansen amendment which hung in the Ways and Means Committee, but we couldn't get enough support for it on the floor that would just wipe the whole thing out, remove the entire data center tax break. People weren't willing to go that far. Okay, so we took away some of it. We didn't take away all of it. That's the tax part of it. The regulation part of it is super tricky. There are pros and cons to having data centers in a community. There's a big one in Quincy. There's a big one in Puyallup. By all accounts, they're generating a fair number of jobs and a decent little tax revenue in the community. However, there are non-trivial concerns about their environmental impact. There are non-trivial concerns about noise. There are concerns about water usage, which I think depending on who you listen to are more serious or less serious. There are definitely concerns about their energy consumption. Washington State relatively has cheap energy largely because of hydropower, right? So that makes us a fairly attractive place for data centers to locate. So this is another reason I was so opposed to the tax breaks. It's like, if they want to come, they can come, but I don't even think we should give them special tax treatment to do this. The bill to regulate them did not make it out of the Senate Ways and Means Committee, largely because it was a big, complicated piece of public policy. This is the first year people have done it. It wasn't at all clear that they had gotten the balance right on any of these features. And so they're going to bring it back next year. But definitely, the question, should we look carefully at how much power they're using, what the environmental impact is, make sure they're creating good jobs? Absolutely, right? Those are all the questions that we're asking as we're trying to figure out what to do on the regulatory bill. How do you? Okay.
About the NDA,
It was probably in the regulatory bill.
are we going to stop that?
Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to roundabouts. So for a little background, so the roundabout we're talking about is at High School Road and 305. Just a tiny quick history. So council found out about this roundabout incidentally in November of 2024, either October or November. It was hidden in another document about fish passages. And it just said roundabout at High School and 305. And we were like, well, what roundabout? We'd never heard about one there. So that was a little shocking. Majority of council, I'm just one of 7, can't speak for all, have really opposed this roundabout since we heard about it. I'm a fan of roundabouts. Actually, I think they're a great solution and very safe. I don't think that's the solution for right there. We had a really productive meeting with WashDOT maybe 3 weeks ago. They came to council and presented the project again, as well as the public participation meetings they've had. And at the end of the meeting, characterized it as a storage issue, meaning that basically, if any of you have taken the ferry, which we all do, and have accessed the ferry, especially South Enders now, there's a pretty roundabout way you have to get there. For many of us, it includes going through a parking lot at times that they hadn't thought about. And so what they were saying was, we asked, what happens if traffic backs up past the roundabout, getting on the ferry? Oh, just keep going around. It's just a storage issue. Which made no sense. I mean, yeah, that was actually the answer. And so at the end of that conversation, council 6-1 voted to put forth a resolution that we were in official opposition of the roundabout occurring there. So, yes. So that's where we are. And I do want to say that throughout this session, all of you have been supportive of that. You've done different things, been working really hard even before this session to try to listen to our community. And so I'm not going to steal your thunder. I'm going to ask the questions, but that's where we are with roundabout. So on the roundabout, I'm going to group these since of time is of the essence here. Is there any way to stop the roundabout? Can you explain what's happening at WashDOT relevant to roundabout and mosquito fleet? So that's a secondary one. What are you going to do about the 305 High School Road roundabout? Yellow means advisory. So says Doug Dahl with the Traffic Safety Commission. Drivers don't always stop for pedestrians and blinking yellow lights are pressed. Do you agree? We need our intersection to be safe. Okay. And then one last transportation-ish one that we'll add to this since we have Rep. Nance here. Okay. What long-term investments are planned for Kitsap transportation beyond ferries? So this is our transportation section. Feel free to take anyone you'd like. And let's start with you, Representative Nance.
Can I get a show of hands? Who here really wants to see this roundabout at 305 and High School Road? Can I see a show of hands? Who would not like to see this? Who would vote against that? Okay, and I see 3 or 4 people holding out neutrally, Switzerland style. Overwhelmingly, I have heard from now hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of neighbors their opposition to this project, and it's a host of reasons. One place in which I am opposed is that I've been driving the intersection since I was 16 as a brand new driver on Bainbridge. That is one of the safer intersections on 305 that I've personally observed over half a lifetime of driving. The data that WashDOT is seeking to use to show the case is actually, we've already compared notes. The data conflicts with Bainbridge Island Fire Department's data. It actually doesn't look like a particularly dangerous intersection at all. The last serious accidents were actually years ago. And there are very serious safety issues on the 305 corridor. We've worked as a delegation to secure a $40 million investment for the 305 corridor. And if we wanted to build this roundabout, over $30 million of it would be sunk right there. And somewhere around a $4 million local taxpayer investment would be needed on top of that. So let me break down the jargon there. That's a very bad deal. That is a very bad deal, especially when we're told we don't have enough money for new ferries, we don't have enough money for a new Agate Pass Bridge. We know better as community members, and yet a bureaucracy in Olympia wants to tell us that we don't know what we're talking about. But we do. We know that's a bad deal. So to your question, can we actually stop this? We can stop this if we work together. Senator Hansen, Representative Simmons, and I have forwarded dozens and dozens and dozens of your emails on to WashDOT. The regional administrator, who's actually a very smart, thoughtful engineer, has acknowledged these are good considerations that we need to be thinking about. Councilmember Lant, Councilmember Matthews have been like a hawk on this. We are speaking with one voice, and that's how, at the very least, we will get a better plan with more favorable economics. What does that actually mean? I'm a frugal guy. I don't know if you can tell looking at my outfit here, but I like to save money where I can, and that includes a $30 million unneeded roundabout. Let me be specific. We need to press WashDOT to come up with low-cost enhancements. There are actually ways to keep drivers and pedestrians safe that don't cost $30 million. Things like a rumble strip before you hit the corner there. Things like a sign saying traffic may be backed up. Not a bad idea. Maybe even lowering a speed limit. Another 5 or 10 miles an hour. Those are all data-driven ways to actually get some of the safety benefits. We know that roundabouts actually tend to work well unless there's very irregular traffic flow and pedestrians, both of which describe the intersection perfectly. So we've got a lot of work to do. Our delegation's been working really well with City of Bainbridge Island, our commissioners, and our community, but we're going to need your help. If you oppose this, please send me an email today, greg.nance@ledge.wa.gov, so that Mr. Rourke at WashDOT can hear how our community really feels about this. Yeah. Okay.
We wish him well. Okay. I hate the High School Road roundabout. Okay. I don't want it at all. I don't know anybody who wants it. I mean, people who have lost family members in bicycle accidents oppose the roundabout. Okay. So here you may ask yourself, why are we even talking about a roundabout if everyone hates the roundabout? And if you attended some of the town halls, which I'll bet, raise your hand if you were at one of the town halls about the roundabout. A lot of people showed up at the town halls, including my family members. Their justification for the roundabout is this is an unsafe intersection. And therefore we must, as a state, put in a roundabout. Otherwise, someone's going to get hurt at this intersection and we're going to get sued. Okay, so there's kind of 2 problems with that. One It's not clear that it's an unsafe intersection. Representative Nance brought up the disparity between the Bainbridge Island Fire Department data and the WashDOT data. That's one reason to question it. Another is just sort of the common sense of everyone in this room. As Representative Nance said, no, I mean, I've lived on the island 20 years. It's never occurred to me that this is a dangerous intersection, like 0 times, right? I've never thought, oh my gosh, better be careful. I'm driving through High School Road. Like I've never had to tell the Hanson kids, slow down, you know, you're going to that. Like no one thinks it's dangerous. Number 3, when you look at their data, which I read their traffic report, there's a couple problems. Like most of the reasons people get in accidents are distracted driving. That's probably half of the High School Road accidents. That has nothing to do with the design of the intersection. A roundabout is not going to make you undistracted. Also, it's not clear to me that they're taking account of how many cars go through that intersection all the time. Busy intersections are going to have more accidents than not busy intersections. Also, it's not clear to me that they're taking account of the fact that it's on High School Road. Guess who goes there? Teenagers, high schoolers, who are probably more likely to get into accidents. So I've raised all of this with the Department of Transportation. I was emailing with them just 2 days ago, actually, to get them to look again at their data to back up this assertion that it's unsafe, because I think it's wrong. The second way we go at it is what Representative Nance just said. Okay, fine. Let's say it's super unsafe, contrary to what everyone thinks, contrary to what the data says. What else can we do consistent with a stoplight to make it safer? And this is like Nance wizardry. Like, I don't know what a rumble strip is, but apparently it's something you can do and it like slows stuff down. Okay, but there are other things you can do that are not put in an expensive roundabout to make the intersection safer if it is an unsafe intersection in the first place. So that is what we're working on. There was a Hanson amendment to the Senate transportation budget to defund the High School Road roundabout. We could not get enough support to bring that forward because everyone's kind of listening to WashDOT when they say this is unsafe, we have to do something about it. So we're going to meet them on their own terms. It's actually not that unsafe. There are things we can do about it besides putting in a roundabout. Thank you very much, by the way, for all of your emails on this, because we read them all. I've written you back and say, I hate the roundabout too, and we flip them to WashDOT, and hopefully someone will finally start paying attention and listening. It's incredibly frustrating. It's the first time I've been in this position where you feel like you're just howling into the void and we are clearly right and they are clearly wrong. But we're going to keep at it, and God willing, we are never going to see that stupid roundabout ever constructed on Bainbridge Island.
I would like to know exactly how many emails y'all received, because we got quite a few, and I took each and every one of mine and I just sent them right back to you guys with a quick note saying, heads up. And I told all you people, I'm forwarding them to the people who actually have a closer ear to this. Okay, this question, this is around the millionaire's tax. Couple questions on this, including my own. Can you talk about the millionaire's tax in relation to farmers and small businesses? People are thinking they're going to be affected by this tax. What is each of your stances on the millionaire's tax? Is moving to a more progressive tax system possible? If so, this way or via baby steps? My question is kind of for the city of Bainbridge and other municipalities. As the millionaire's tax and other tax packages are going to provide more stable funding for statewide programs, certain sales and use tax exemptions might reduce revenues for cities like the city of Bainbridge Island. So are there any discussions about addressing these potential local revenue losses? Not just how you might close the gap, but you might actually increase some of our revenues. Who wants to start? Mrs. Simmons.
I'll start with this. I presided over this debate, so 81 amendments, and so I know this bill pretty well. I first want to say I appreciate that Senator Hanson, Rep. Nance, and I did not vote the same on this bill, and I still feel like we are completely united in our values, and I'm so glad that we actually met right before the House version got introduced, so we didn't sign on. We decided we were going to fight for working people and make sure that we could bring home as much as possible for working class folks in that bill, and so we withheld our like sign of any kind of support. So we could strategize together, and that was good. So the millionaire's tax is an income tax, but the first $1 million is exempt. So anyone after $1 million will pay 9.9%. Anything after $1 million. And if this bill passes the court challenge and potential referendum, that's going to happen as well. What persuaded me to vote for it was that knowing that 41 other states do have an income tax that don't even have $1 million exemption, and that we were an outlier, and that we have one of the most regressive tax systems in America, and that our schools are struggling, that we, and a lot of our other essential services are struggling. And yes, there is waste in the budget that we are trying to uproot, but there still is a problem with revenue in this state. But the things that helped me get to a vote of the yes was some of the things that we just talked about. Because we are eliminating sales tax on diapers, hygiene products, and over-the-counter medications, knowing that that was going to impact local jurisdictions, we doubled the amount in a special account that we're going to give back to local jurisdictions. So I think it was somewhere around maybe, and don't quote me specifically, but $64 million of revenue that was going to be lost from local cities and counties. We gave over double of that into a separate account, and I think it's called the City and County Fiscal Health Account or something like that. And it wasn't in the bill, it's in the budget though. So we are going to give more money from the revenue of the millionaire tax back to local jurisdictions so they can do things like fund their essential services, first responders, and things like that. Also, when it comes to small businesses, I guess it depends on what you think is a small business. For me, it's, right now, if you make under, I think it's 100 to 150 of gross receipts, you are exempt from paying the B&O tax. Now that's going up to $600,000 a year of gross receipts. So this is going to expand the B&O tax relief to a lot of small businesses. I consider those small businesses. When it comes to farmers, we actually took an amendment in this bill, knowing that people spend their whole lives working as farmers, putting the money back into the farm, and then they sell it. There is an exemption, and I think it's like $10 million for farmers when you sell your farm that you won't pay on this at all. So there also was an expansion of working families tax credit. So right now, I thought of my son, who's a Marine reservist and works in the shipyard, 23 years old, 1.5 babies. He doesn't get working families tax credit, even though he makes around $60,000 a year to support a family of 4. Now he will get working families tax credit because we're increasing that to 470,000 new families. If you make under about $9,500 a month for a family of 4, you will qualify for working families tax credit. It also is going to now fund free breakfast and lunch for all kids in schools. Doesn't matter what your income is. And I know some people say, well, if you have money, you should pay for your breakfast and lunch. Well, the truth is the administration and cost of having to figure out who is on free breakfast and lunch and who's not is burdensome to school districts. And also there's some stigma around that for kids. If you're on free breakfast or free lunch and your friends aren't, and there's, they know who is and who isn't, there's stigma. And so actually for sake of bureaucracy and efficiency, it was just better to provide all breakfast and lunch for all kids. And we're doing that in the millionaire's tax. And there was, some other things in there I can't recall right now, but those are hopefully the questions that you asked about local jurisdictions, farmers, and small businesses.
Yeah. Thank you, Rep. Simmons. So yeah, all three of us, I think, approach these questions from our own perspective, from our own angle. I want to share where I'm coming from. So number one of my key values when we think about taxation is fairness. We undermine the trust in our system when people feel like it's an unfair system. Unfortunately, Washington State is not a very fair tax system. We're actually ranked 49th in the union for tax fairness. We're actually only ahead of Florida. And so that gives you an idea of our starting point. We're not seen as fair. Why is that? Well, the top decile, the top 10% of wealthiest neighbors in our state, they pay somewhere around 4.5% of their income to state taxes. Whereas when you're on the bottom decile, the bottom 10% are some of our poorest neighbors, they're going to pay closer to 16% with sales tax and gas taxes. And so you take a moment just to think about that. Our tax burden shouldn't overwhelmingly fall on the shoulders of our most vulnerable and poorest neighbors. And so really, how do we make progress on that? There were a lot of different proposals. Millionaire's tax was one of them. And it was clear that it had sort of the most legs, and it had the ability to probably raise the most revenue and probably do it in the fairest way. And anything that we do in Olympia, you've got to have a majority of the House, a majority of the Senate, and you have to have a governor willing to sign it. And so welcome to compromise land, where nothing is perfect. In fact, while Representative Simmons was presiding over 81 amendments, I actually found myself nodding in agreement with several of my Republican colleagues as they sponsored amendments, some of which I think would have made this bill better, would have made it easier to administer, would have made it even fairer for farmers, small business owners, seniors, and young families. Those are all things that I actually voted for, those amendments. They didn't have enough votes to actually pass. And so my prediction, we're actually going to be coming back to this legislation over the next couple of years to refine and tweak based off feedback that we hear from chambers of commerce, from the Farm Bureau, from AARP and other senior associations. And welcome to Compromise Land, where we're going to try to get this right. Is it perfect? Definitely not. I wanted to see far more investment into seniors, into veterans, into small businesses, into farmers. This is a step forward, but I would have liked to see a bigger step. That's why I ended up voting yes. I have my colleague, Senator Hansen here, who we actually agree on a lot of things. We didn't see eye to eye in this, but I know that his values and his thought process was very, very sound on this. I want to give him a shot to directly share.
So I was one of the no votes on the income tax. I think my view was if we're going to go down this road, we have to cut taxes very, very, very deeply somewhere else. And that bill, either when it came down the Senate or when it came back from the House, in my view, did not go anywhere near far enough in cutting other taxes to warrant imposing the first income tax in Washington state history. Now, this is one where the three of us, I think Representative Simmons and Representative Nance are exactly right. We had basically the same values in looking at this. We all wanted deeper tax cuts. We just differed on kind of where we came out at the end of the day in evaluating the final package. And if you're in our district, I mean, we have a politically mixed district. I mean, I know it might not seem like this on Bainbridge Island, which is probably a 90-10 Kamala Harris district, but like we have a more purple and a more red district. We have people who support the income tax. We have people who don't support the income tax. So across our delegation, we are managing to represent through the three of us, basically all the views in our district on this one. And so here's what's going to happen next with this. There will be a legal challenge. It will go to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court will decide whether it's going to overrule its 1930s era case, holding this as unconstitutional. I don't know what's going to happen in that, but almost certainly it is going to go to the ballot. I don't know if that's this year, next year, or the following year, but what that means is every single person in this room will have a chance to look at it for yourself, and everyone in this room will have a chance to make the same decision that we made based on your own assessment of the pros and cons of this proposal. And that's one of the great strengths of the Washington state system, is at the end of the day, the people of Washington state are the ultimate authorities of the state, and we all get to vote together on things that are this important. So we'll see how that goes. But in my own judgment, the bill as it went through the legislature did not get my support. It did not go far enough in cutting taxes.
Thank you, Senator Hansen. Okay, so we want to respect everyone's time today. But I also want to make sure that we get through the questions that you took time to ask. So maybe a little bit shorter answers just to get through these. No, it's okay. So we just had two on our last one that I didn't get to, which was, I know I want to get to for Gloria, which was just update or on the mosquito fleet quickly. And then what long-term investments are planned for Kitsap transportation beyond ferries? Can be just a quick answer, or you can get back to her. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you. So yeah, lightning round here. So Mosquito Fleet Act, has anyone heard of this bill? A few people. Okay. So the aim of Mosquito Fleet Act, how do we get boats on the water as quickly and as cheaply as possible to help backfill for WSF? Our fleet is down to 17 of the 27 boats that we need to actually run reliable ferry service. We are 15 or more years away from getting back to that standard. What do we do in the meantime? That's the spirit of this legislation. Passed the House of Representatives with big bipartisan support, 84-11. It heads over to the Senate, has a really compelling hearing, and unfortunately, there was a new version of the bill drafted kind of overnight that added tens of millions of dollars of costs, years of delays, and 14 new mandates. Basically, a new version of a bill that really makes no sense, that destroys the spirit of the bill. That's unfortunate. Sometimes that's how legislation works, where a different colleague is prioritizing for a different thing. I won't try to speak for this powerful senator who doesn't live anywhere nearby, but I think he's optimizing for different things. He's on the record of, hey, people can just wait 10 more years for new boats. And that's not my position, obviously. We need to move faster. We need to deliver here. And part of my job as your representative is to tell powerful people the truth about the impacts of those terrible policies on us. And so I've been very vocal, letting neighbors know both in our neck of the woods and farther afield the costs here. That's one thing. So ferries, what other investments? So has anyone here ridden Kitsap Transit before? Like our bus service? Wonderful. So my dad was able to take, yes, our bus and fast ferry, they're awesome. We're really fortunate that in a semi-rural community, we actually have reliable public transit. We need more of that. We need more investment so that more folks that are unable or unwilling to drive, which is about 30% of us, can still get to where we need to be. Work, school, the doctor, groceries, church, wherever. Those investments are coming. Through the Climate Commitment Act, we're able to designate dollars to help modernize our bus fleet, to build more park and rides so that more folks can connect to our ferries into central areas. And so we're working to invest in that. We have a delegation that's very supportive of public transit and a community that's holding us accountable to deliver on those investments. So it's teamwork and a partnership at every level here. And together we're getting it done.
I just want to add one thing I'm really excited about is I've been working a lot with Safe Streets and trying to help get more bicycle lanes and more sidewalks, because I really think that if we had more e-bikes in more ability, I love it out here in Bainbridge where you have a lot more, but in East Bremerton, we don't. And so I'm working with my community about that.
Thank you. Okay, so a couple other brief. Okay. Lightning round. Do you agree with the new state regulations that waive environmental review for affordable housing projects? That's one. Number two, referendums and initiatives. Emergency riders are taking away the ability to do referendums. Bills are being introduced to make it more difficult to do initiatives. Thoughts?
You probably got from what I said last time, I totally oppose efforts to weaken the initiative system. I mean, there was a bill to do this related to signature gathering. I told the prime sponsor, who I sit next to, that this is stupid and terrible, and I oppose it. Now, whether you do a referendum clause or not, generally something can get to the ballot either by a referendum or an initiative. So whether you have a referendum clause, you can get an opportunity. Sorry, I'm talking too long. Yes, I like the initiative system. I think it's a super important safeguard for popular democracy. I've generally tried to oppose efforts to weaken it.
Hey. Yeah, so I would echo that. I think we need to respect the will of our neighbors statewide, and doing cutesy emergency clauses and other things to circumvent the will of the people, no good. No kings in DC, no kings here in Washington. The second thread is around environmental reviews. We need to take an honest look in the mirror about the state of our community and the state of our country. In the 1950s and 60s into 70s, large industrial scale corporates were basically dumping toxic waste into rivers all across our country. And heroically, members of the public all around the country stepped up and said, enough is enough. We need environmental protections that keep us safe, that's clean air, clean water, so that we can raise healthy kids and grandkids. And I'm so grateful that we stepped up and solved that problem. That is awesome. That was the 1970s. Fast forward to 2026, a lot of those rules and regulations that were so important for us to be healthy and happy as a community are now preventing us from actually building the housing that we desperately need, the roads, the bridges that we need, and it's jacking up the cost of almost everything right now. And so we need to take an honest look in the mirror that made a ton of sense 50 plus years ago to keep us safe. The things that will help us prosper into the future are actually going to look different. And that's really the beauty of our American system. Every generation has to figure out how, from where we are today, how do we get forward and do the best thing for our community? We need to take an honest look at what regulations can be streamlined, what regulations can be fast-tracked, what regulations are so important we actually shouldn't touch those at all. And with that discussion and dialogue that we have as a locality and as a state, I think we can come up with a better model. It costs almost 50% more to build a house in Washington than in Austin, Texas. And that's a huge problem. Austin, Texas is a very desirable place to live. Rents are down about 5% over the last decade. Here on Bainbridge and in Kitsap and in Seattle, rents are up a lot over the last decade. We had to look in the mirror and realize that we are part of that challenge. We got to do better.
I just want to say it depends. I'm a lawyer, so it depends. No, I know that you all just went through something out here on an affordable housing project and the environmental thing. I didn't get into the weeds, but in general, I think that we do have too much bureaucracy to get affordable housing built, but I don't know the specifics of that particular issue. So that might be, I do agree that things change over time and it might be just too much, but we still need to protect the environment. I really believe that. So I guess it depends. And then same with the referendum initiative clause. You know, in the pandemic, we had to do an emergency. That was an emergency, right? So if we passed a bill and we had to put an emergency clause on it, I think that was a true emergency. But do I think that sometimes it's used inappropriately? Yes. So I guess I would have to look at each policy before they came before me, and neither one of these have like come before me yet to really study, to get into the details, to make a informed decision yet. But
Thank you so much, Representative Simmons. Okay, we are on our last couple questions and then a final question where you can give just a little final statement, closing statement, and then we'll be out into the sunshine. So final two ones of the quick round, and then I'll ask your final question. Do all of you support bringing back corporate practice of medicine bill, and would you support legislation for universal health care? Yes or no? Just a quick nod or yet? Yes? We got a yes?
Yes, on the corporate practice of medicine one, to some extent, depending on how you do it. You don't want to have private equity buying up every single medical practice in the state and then jacking up prices and doing prospecting. Really damaging, super hard to get a handle on. The problem with universal healthcare is everyone likes it. It is wildly expensive, wildly expensive. Like, and I know everyone's like, no, it actually doesn't cost much money. It saves money. That is false. Okay, from the state perspective, it will cost a lot of money. Right now, when we are not adequately funding our schools, I am very skeptical that we are doing universal healthcare anytime soon.
Yeah, no doubt we need more healthcare access. How we get there is the key question. In the meantime, while we're debating and trying to balance budgets, we need more healthcare workforce. Our delegation has greenlit a new Olympic College healthcare campus to train more folks. And with West Sound Tech, we'll get more folks through there. And that way, as we actually build, and here on Bainbridge too, we're building out more pediatric coverage with Peninsula Community Health Services, more senior coverage. We need more access. How we get there, there's a lot of good ideas. We need to bring the costs down, and part of that is having a great workforce that stays here on the peninsula and builds a career here on the peninsula.
Okay, thanks, Rep. Nance. Okay, last question. So there was this one, but I think you answered it already, but I'll read it just for the sake of reading it. How is the state addressing rising property taxes and rent burdens for middle income households? And I think you want to do it a quick.
yeah, Senator Krishna Dawson had a great bill. I pulled it from rules and got to preside over it. It was to reduce property taxes for seniors, people with disabilities, disabled veterans. And so we're making some progress there. We did rent stabilization the session before to kind of cap how high landlords can increase rent, and they have to give the right notice, and it's 7% plus CPI, so a maximum of 10% per year. And so we are, and then all of the funding that we put into the Housing Trust Fund, which helps things like Finch Green out here. I'm really happy we were able to help close the gap on that. I am concerned about the mobile home park situation out here, but that's just for Bainbridge. I want to say I appreciate working with these two. We've been able to bring home so much money into affordable housing projects in the last 2 years in this biennium, all across the county, including out in Kingston and in Bremerton and in Silverdale and Paulsbo and out here on Bainbridge Island. So we're doing our best, but we need to also remove some regulations to incentivize more development and get more supply.
Okay.
Oh, thank you. So, okay. All right. So last question. And this will be for each of you, and you can give a little closing statement. Okay, this is really the last question. And thank you all for being here today. I feel like town halls like this are so important to have for so many different reasons. So it's really good that we all took the time. It's probably an essential part of how we all make government work better. And I think we all have a lot of a role to play, no pressure in that these days. So last question, what are the top 3 issues you will focus on in the next legislative session? You want to start?
Yeah. Totally. So I'm going to continue focusing on 3 areas that I've been very focused in memory of Senator Phil Rockefeller, who started the Puget Sound Partnership. We'll continue working to protect Puget Sound with good common sense policies that help us ensure that we have a beautiful Puget Sound long into the future. Second, working for working families, ensuring this is an affordable place to raise a family. And then third, fix our ferries. Continue very focused there. Before I pass the mic, I want to give a big thank you to our co-hosts here, Councilmember Laura Lant, round of applause, and Councilmember Ashley Matthews, round of applause. And then finally, out back, we can only do what we can do because we have a great staff. We have Connor, we have Zach, we have Shelby. They not only coordinate this event, but coordinate our offices. Please, one round of applause for our staff as well. Thank you.
Well, it's very hard to just pick 3 because as a state representative, there's so many issues and they're different in Bremerton than they are in Bainbridge. But what I'll say, continue to be responsive, continue to take care of my 2 brothers here and work with them. But also really affordability is huge right now for everybody, from housing to groceries to gas. Everyone is feeling it. If you don't feel very blessed, that you're not, because everyone I talk to is feeling the crunch. And so working on those issues, affordable housing. Second is healthcare system in general. That is where I spend a majority of my time. I'm concerned about the consolidation and the fact that Virginia Mason Franciscan Health kind of runs almost everything in Kitsap County, and we don't have enough independent providers. And so I'm convening independent providers. The last standing independent radiology company in Bremerton, working with the public health department and trying to make sure that we can continue to have a variety of different healthcare points. So that way one system can't control it all and then decide what gets cut. And then we don't have no say in that, no power. And then the last thing is affordable housing, I would say, is continuing to be a big issue right now too. So, and ICE in the federal overreach, immigrants and LGBTQ neighbors are feeling very afraid right now. So if you have family, friends that are immigrants or in the LGBTQ community, give them extra love right now. I am working to make sure that they have their civil rights protected, and that's going to be a continued focus probably in the next session as well.
Okay. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to focus on the same 3 things I did last session. So affordability, particularly as it relates to the cost of college, making sure people can afford college or workforce training, controlling state spending and looking for reductions that are smart, that are things we should not have been doing in the first place, or areas we need to cut back, and then protecting us against whatever the Trump administration throws at us. And we don't know what that's going to look like, but it's probably going to have something to do with ICE. I will continue working to make sure that ICE doesn't just wander around inside our non-public areas of our colleges, our hospitals, our schools without a warrant. And, the 3 of us, I think, work on a lot of different things. You can probably see there's sort of an informal division of labor where some of us work more on some issues than others. And I'm very, very grateful to be serving with these 2 colleagues. And I'm also very, very grateful to all of you. We have colleagues in the legislature who don't have town halls. And they've stopped doing them because 7 people would show up. We do not take it for granted at all that we have 60 people here on the first sunny afternoon we've had in a while, who are willing to spend an hour listening to us yammer about issues of public policy. So thank you so much for doing this. Hooray to you. Well done. We'll stick around for a little bit. I want to get out in the garden because the Whedon's gotten ahead of me. But thank you for coming. You've been a great audience. We appreciate you. Thank you for letting us serve you.